One of the factors that have deep roots in the depopulation of Spain is the historical and cultural factors. Spain has long been a country of small towns and villages where families coexisted and contributed to the tight-knit community. The Reconquista, which took place in Spain from the 8th through the 15th century, was one of the most significant periods in its history. Christians took back control of the Iberian Peninsula during this time from Muslims, who had long ruled most of Spain. The Reconquista was a violent and bloody era marked by religious conflicts, violence, and persecution. Muslim and Jewish populations were significantly displaced, either compelled to convert to Christianity or driven from the nation. The Reconquista had a tremendous impact on Spain's populace because it resulted in a significant loss of diversity and helped to unify Spanish culture. The Age of Discovery, which started in the 15th century, was another crucial era in Spain's history. Spain grew during this era into a world superpower with colonies and trading ports everywhere. Due to this, the nation experienced an influx of financial resources and innovative ideas that influenced Spanish culture and society. But it also led to a considerable population immigration, as many Spaniards fled the country to travel the globe or look for riches in the colonies. This outflux resulted in a population decline, which left the rural area particularly unpopulated. Spain also experienced a period of political unrest in the 20th century, which had a massive impact on its populace. The Spanish Civil War lasted from 1936 to 1939, was a particularly bloody and traumatic time that resulted in hundreds of thousands of deaths and a significant emigration of refugees. During this era, a large number of people departed the nation, either to flee the violence or to fight in other wars like World War II. The population fell significantly as a result, especially among younger generations. Spain's topography and climate are two of the most evident causes of its uninhabited areas. Spain is a large nation with a total size of more than 500,000 square kilometers. The Iberian Peninsula, which is a mountainous region with many arid and semi-arid parts, is where most of the country is situated. People have found it challenging to settle in many Spanish parts. The dry and semi-arid areas have little water and are not conducive for agriculture, while the mountainous ones are rough and difficult to travel through. As a result, people have found it more challenging to establish communities in these places. Spanish people are accustomed to scorching, dry summers and mild, rainy winters. Although this environment is excellent for tourism, it is tough to live in some areas of the nation. The inability to grow crops and raise cattle during hot, dry summers has made it impossible for people to thrive in many rural locations. Spain is the second most arid nation in Europe, right behind Greece, and a sizable portion of its land is semi-arid. It can be challenging for communities to survive in some areas of the nation due to the desert-like conditions that make it hard for people to locate water sources. The moderate rainy winters can also be brutal, particularly in mountainous areas. Over half of Spain's territory is 600 meters above sea level, making it difficult for people to establish and sustain homes and communities. The absence of human activity has led to a decline in biodiversity and a higher risk of wildfires and other natural disasters. As a result, both those who still live in rural areas and those who travel there for fun have seen a reduction in the quality of life there. Another factor was the Franco regime's despopulation, or depopulation policy, which was implemented from 1939 until 1975. This program sought to centralize power and control over the populace by enforcing emigration from rural to urban regions. Villagers were forced to relocate to newly constructed towns and cities, frequently far from their original homes after their villages were destroyed. Many rural communities lost their identity and way of life. The rural depopulation in Spain has had far-reaching implications, both for the people who live there and for the country as a whole. One of the most obvious effects is the abundance of rural areas with abandoned villages and towns, many of which are in a state of deterioration and ruin. These ghost communities serve as a reminder of the loss of identity and sense of place that many rural communities have undergone. Spain's economy and society have also taken a massive hit by the depopulation of rural areas. Rural areas are often the backbone of a country's food production, and their decrease has resulted in a decline in the quality and diversity of Spanish agricultural products. The loss of rural communities has also resulted in the loss of traditional knowledge and skills, which are critical for conserving Spain's cultural heritage and identity. Over the last few decades, Spain's economy has shifted significantly from agriculture and rural industries to more urban and service-oriented sectors. This shift has had a significant impact on rural communities, resulting in job losses, lower pay, and a lack of economic prospects. The globalization of the economy is one of the major contributing factors to this shift. Many of Spain's traditional industries, such as agriculture and manufacturing, became less competitive when the country opened up to international trade and investment. As a result, many people traveled to metropolitan regions in search of work, resulting in job losses and a drop in economic activity in rural areas. Furthermore, the European Union's agricultural policies have had a massive impact on Spain's rural economy. The EU provides subsidies to farmers based on the amount of land they cultivate under the Common Agricultural Policy. These subsidies, however, are frequently biased towards the advantage of large-scale, more industrialized farms that can produce items more effectively than small-scale farmers. As a result, small-scale agriculture has declined, as have traditional knowledge and skills. Another economic factor contributing to rural depopulation in Spain is the fall in rural tourism. Spain is one of the most popular tourist destinations in the world, yet much of it is centered in coastal areas and big cities. Because of this, many rural communities have been left behind and offer limited prospects for enterprises involved in tourism to prosper. This has resulted in an economic activity decline and job losses, particularly in places where agriculture and tourism were previously the primary sources of revenue. The 2008 Spanish economic crisis had a massive impact on rural communities. A recession hit the nation, forcing many firms to close their doors and shooting up unemployment rates. This resulted in a mass migration of residents from rural areas to metropolitan centers, where they could get better employment prospects. Since the crisis, this migration has persisted, and many rural areas are still working to recover. Transportation has been a significant factor in the rural depopulation in Spain. Access to transportation is vital for rural economic and social development. Many rural communities in Spain have inadequate transport infrastructure, making it difficult for residents to access jobs, education, healthcare, and other essential services. This has resulted in a population decline in many rural areas as people migrate to urban areas with better transportation. The lack of public transportation options is one of the most significant transportation difficulties in rural areas. There are few or no public transportation choices in many parts of Spain, making it difficult for individuals to access essential services faster. This has heavily impacted on the elderly and those who are unable to drive, leaving them unable to get medical treatment or other necessary services. Another issue with transportation in rural areas is the poor condition of the roads. Many rural roads in Spain are in poor condition and can be hazardous to drive on, especially in bad weather. This has resulted in a drop in tourism in some rural areas, as visitors may find it hard to commute on dangerous roads. Many enterprises, especially those that rely on reliable transportation, may be reluctant to establish themselves in rural locations, where public transport is unreliable or expensive. This has led to a decline in job opportunities in many rural areas, which in turn has contributed to depopulation. Finally, government policies have contributed to Spain's emptiness. For many years, the Spanish government has prioritized metropolitan areas while neglecting rural ones. People have found it tough to live and work in rural areas, contributing to their depopulation. Furthermore, many government policies have favored huge enterprises and urban areas, making it harder for rural businesses and communities to grow. Agriculture subsidies, for example, have been slashed in recent years, making it more difficult for farmers to earn a livelihood. Furthermore, a lack of infrastructure investment, such as high-speed internet and public transport, has made it difficult for enterprises to establish themselves in rural areas. Despite all these factors, there are other reasons why living in rural Spain can be appealing. Away from the rush and bustle of the city, the countryside provides a peaceful and relaxed way of life. There is lots of fresh air, gorgeous scenery, and a sense of camaraderie that is often lacking in cities. Furthermore, rural locations can provide a reduced cost of living and a more sustainable lifestyle, with access to locally grown produce and the opportunity to participate in activities such as hiking or outdoor sports. In recent years, there's been a renewed interest in rural areas in Spain, due to a growing interest in sustainable and eco-friendly living. Many people are seeking a calm and more sustainable way of life, and are drawn to the idea of living in rural areas where they may be self-sufficient and live in harmony with nature. Also, initiatives like the Plan de Ordenación del Territorio de España, POT, and the Estrategia Nacional Frente al Reto Demográfico, ENRD, have aided in the promotion of rural development and attracting investment. Small companies such as local eateries, artisanal stores, and eco-tourism initiatives have emerged and developed, providing not just economic opportunities, but also aiding in the preservation of local customs and cultural traditions. And that brings us to the end of this video. What do you think about Spain's emptiness? Let us know in the comments section. We hope you enjoyed this video and learned something new today. And as always, keep exploring.